Welcome back to Moms That Lead. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Teri Schmidt, and I am so grateful that you are here today. As we wrap up our series on becoming a healthy leader, I'm thrilled to bring you today's conversation with Charlotte and Jonathan of Wellness Theory. If you've experienced stress in your life as a leader and as a mom, or if you're the type of person seeking meaning and impact in your life, then this episode's for you. If not, you can just stop listening now. Since I'm guessing most of you are still here, let's talk about what we're going to hear in today's conversation. In today's conversation, we not only explore the difference between healthy and unhealthy stress and highlight free and totally accessible strategies for letting go of unhealthy stress. We also talk about how you can use this inner work to become a force for good. And on the flip side, how focusing on helping others can actually help you to become a healthier leader. And stick around till the end for a chance to win an entry into an inspiring event that Wellness Theory is hosting called Become a Force for Good. A little bit about Wellness Theory and Charlotte and Jonathan. Together, they have over 35 years' experience in health, fitness, and wellness. They co-founded Wellness Theory after their personal journeys and struggles led them to see the value of a focus on holistic wellness. They know that letting go of unhealthy stress unlocks our innate wellness, which ignites more energy, confidence, and the clarity to positively impact the world. In addition to helping people live healthy, meaningful lives, they aim to inspire more individuals to align with the global goal to ensure that everyone has access to good health and well-being. So let's get into the conversation. One note, you may notice the audio quality of this episode is not quite as good as it usually is on Moms That Lead, but we felt the content was too good not to share with you. But before we jump into this amazing conversation, in case you're new here, let me introduce myself and the Moms That Lead movement. Are you ready to jump off the hamster wheel and finally listen to that voice inside that says you were meant for more? Are you ready to replace overwhelm with calm and clarity, self-doubt with confidence, and mom guilt with connection? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Moms That Lead podcast, where we know that moms have a unique ability to be world changers, and that leadership is not about position, but instead, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. I'm Teri Schmidt, your host and leadership mentor, determined to bring you the inspiration, motivation, and practical tips to help you live your best life. I'm a corporate leader and coach turned nonprofit founder. My family's journey to completing an Ironman triathlon changed my life forever, and I want to be your friend on the journey to gain the clarity, confidence, and connection that I gained from that experience. So if you're ready to ditch mom guilt and activate your strengths, let's jump in. Welcome, Charlotte and Jonathan, to the Moms That Lead podcast. We're excited to have you here today. I would love to hear from your perspective a little bit about your story and your journey to where you are today.
Thank you so much for having us on. We really love what you do. It's really inspiring work, and it's great to for people who are so aligned, and have no doubt that obviously your listeners are too. So thank you for having us.
So we're very excited to obviously be here, and we're definitely excited to share obviously our story, and then anything of value we can obviously add to obviously people who listen to your podcast as well, which is amazing. Like our story started, well, separately. I was in core fitness for a long time and suffering with a lot of stress, anxiety, really killing myself at work, in the gym, just trying to do things I thought I needed to do, putting a lot of toll on sort of emotional health. And at the time, I really had no idea what that was. All I knew was the physical problems I was getting at that time in terms of chronic pain, exhaustion, sleep issues, and that type of thing. And it did take me a while to kind of find that missing link, which is the mental and emotional side. And once I did and started to connect those together, it really did help massively in terms of bringing my whole being back into balance, where as it was really eliminating unhealthy stress, anxiety, and getting myself back into a more resourceful state to actually achieve what I want in life. And that's kind of where I started to, where I met Charlotte really, and how our journey began working together and evolved from there. So before we go into that, I'll let Charlotte go into a bit about her background?
Yeah, so I also started in kind of that corporate health and wellness fitness space, and which is odd actually, because Jonathan and I, we have a lot of parallels in our lives, and they only crossed paths, I think, when it was supposed to be, and that was when really we was both struggling. I think deep down we didn't really know each other was struggling, and only when we started to become a bit more open to obviously other, and also exploring how we're feeling around the times that we met, that we started to realize actually there's quite a few common factors here. I mean, Jonathan was struggling with a lot of chronic pain due to stress, to the point where it was affecting his vision, and it just affecting how he was showing up every day. And for me, I was really struggling, really internally. I was struggling with a lot of negative thinking, overthinking. I was extremely kind of emotionally overwhelmed, and I didn't really know where it was coming from. I was very emotionally literate then, which is interesting because obviously been in this kind of mainly the kind of fitness space. It was all around eating well and training well. We kind of forget about all these other elements. And as professionals, like honestly, like in the training that we had back in the day when we first started in that industry, nobody was talking about anything else from the nutrition, the exercise side. Nobody was talking about emotions and quality of thinking and breathing and all of these really, really essential things. And that's how Jonathan and I ended up doing what we do now, is we kind of both of our skill sets together. So that's me specializing more in the kind of the mental and emotional side, and Jonathan specializing in the physical side. It really led us to create Wellness Theory, and that's kind of what it's turned into today.
What a wonderful combination. And I love what you said about, your paths not crossing until it's the right time for them to cross. That's so interesting that you were on parallel journeys, but in a way, complementary journeys, in that when you came together, it was the perfect fit for what you're doing today in Wellness Theory. So, speaking about that, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you do with Wellness Theory, and just tell us a little bit more about it and how you serve those that you serve.
Yes, for sure. So Wellness Theory basically was, like I say, it was a combined effort for myself and bring our skill sets together. And our whole purpose was to help people to understand that when they're healthy and well, they can become a force for good. And we kind of really focusing on the stress and anxiety element of wellness, because what we found over the many years and clients that we worked with is it always seems to come back to some level of stress or anxiety, whether relationships, financial, work, career, internal, external. And it all comes down to that everyone's saying how stressed they are, how anxious they are, without understanding the deeper reasons why, those emotional reasons underneath, those root causes of why they're actually feeling the way they are in the first place, and untangling all those to understand that the problem is stress, the problem is deeper than that. And our goal is to help people realize that it's you can't just focus on one area. You can't just, okay, I'm going to go all in on my mental health and neglect emotional, physical health. It's all about an integrated solution. And that's what we work at with Wellness Theory. We focus on heart, mind, body, and soul. And that's the whole purpose of it, is to show people by how you think affects how you feel affects how you show up physically, and how you feel in your body and how you connect with your body, and that gives you, and obviously the byproduct of that is the results that you get, and it all comes around in a kind of in a circle as well. So by focusing on like a holistic point of view when it comes to wellness, we help people really unwrap what stress and anxiety really is for them, and help them to step outside of that and take a step back, look at the big picture. And then when they start to work on themselves, then they start to think, oh, okay, it's great, I'm more resourceful now. The is how can I help other people? And that's what we found with a lot of our clients, is when they do get out of their own way and really take back control of their own life, then they start to ask those questions as, I feel awesome now, and how can I now help other people? And they've gone to open up their own businesses, when it's helping veterans, for example, military veterans, or we're opening up a nursery for young kids and helping people that way. So it's really inspiring to see people shift from thinking about them to working on them, and then thinking about things that are much bigger than them as well.
And it sounds like that's a pretty common theme. Has that been something that you've experienced with your clients across the board, and that once they feel well themselves, that it almost immediately turns to how they can help others?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because in a way, like our clients have inspired our mission even more, because when we first set out to do our coaching, it was predominantly around just helping people feel better in themselves. And it was only when we started to see this pattern of people feeling really good about themselves, and then the ripple effect that was having on everybody around them, and that just fueled us even more. And obviously in hindsight we realized that's kind of what we've been through. We wouldn't be able to be creating the ripple effect that we are as the wellness theory, it was as our coaching platform and as our community platform. We wouldn't be able to do that if we hadn't done that inner work and outer work. So really it's all been a combination of just inspiration from our clients, really, and seeing that pattern evolve and us wanting to lean into that even more.
Yeah, that's inspiring for me, definitely, with the work that we do here as well, to hear that is a common pattern across the board. And it makes me curious too, because I've started to notice something in that not only when people feel well do they then perhaps feel inspired to serve their communities, serve those causes that they're passionate about, but I also almost see that service as being integral to their wellness. And so kind of almost a circular effect. Is that something that you have noticed also?
Yes, 100%. Definitely. There's a direct correlation in how we're showing others and what that looks like internally as well. And if I don't want to go too deep too soon here, but really look at ourselves. Often we're projecting, right? We're projecting so much out into the world, and when we start to project something else, and I think that's where it becomes so powerful. It's almost like this little dance that's going on the whole time. The more we contribute, the better we feel. The better we feel, the more we contribute, and it's just this beautiful little synergy going on. And I think that's where the magic is.
That's exciting to hear that you're hearing that too. I'm learning more and more about the positive health and wellness benefits of getting out there and serving and doing something for a cause that's larger than yourself. So it's exciting to hear that you are seeing that also. I know with our organization, it's called Stronger to Serve, but I also have a second half of that circle that says stronger through service. So stronger to serve and stronger through service is kind of how we see it in the nonprofit that we lead as well. So it's interesting to hear that is coming through in your work as well.
It is. And I think it's just this really beautiful place where people get to choose the entry point. Sometimes it can be so hard to try and contribute to others if we feel like we're really suffering ourselves, especially energetically, right? If you can't get out of bed in the morning, how on earth you can help the world and your community? It's just not going to necessarily feel like the top of the list. But actually for other people, the perfect entry point is that actually when they help others, they feel better and they can start to feel that. So I think it depends on where the person is.
It's like that's kind of that saying is if you want to change the world, you've got to change yourself. And when you change yourself, you want to change the world. And that's the thing, is because you have that, we're built to serve. Is we feel more for when we're helping others as opposed to helping ourselves. So the more we can help other people, once we help ourselves first in terms of looking after ourselves, we be, then when we go out there and start other people, no matter how small or big, that sense of fulfillment comes through massively, because we know we are doing great work, and that can be helping one person, it can be helping millions of people, doesn't really matter. You get that same feeling out of it, and that's the point. Is we want people to realize that you don't need to be a billionaire to help people. You don't need to have everything figured out to make a difference in the world. You just have to start somewhere, and by starting with yourself, looking after yourself, you then can step up and really make a difference again, as large as you want or as small as you want. It all counts.
Yeah, that's so true. I think sometimes we get stuck in the idea that, we have to do this grand act of service or get involved in this massive cause, whereas the health benefits might be available to you as simply as doing an act of kindness for someone in your neighborhood or someone in your family. I think starting small, it's a good reminder that also can deliver a lot of the same benefits and can help start that ripple effect you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
And I love too, Charlotte, what you said about entry points. For many people, I think, as you mentioned, Jonathan, we need to make sure that we're looking internally and and taking care of ourselves first, kind of the, put your own oxygen mask on first idea. But I think what you said, Charlotte, too, about some people just need to take that first step toward helping others, and that then becomes an impetus or an inspiration for also looking internally. So I think that's a great point too, that there are different entry points. From your perspective then, because our podcast is called Moms That Lead, so we are focusing on helping to unlock the leadership potential of healthy, purpose-driven moms. Why is it important from your perspective, both for leaders and for moms, to focus on holistic wellness?
I think obviously with that one, I think it's important because then they get to show up as their true self. And one thing, especially with parents and mums in particular, is the kids, obviously children will adopt what they see at home as well. And I think when parents have kind of that holistic approach to wellness, and that they really show up, they live it, they see it, they feel it, they do it, the kids will follow suit as well. And I think when they focus on that holistic wellness and they focus on the mental health, the emotional, the physical, and they start to realize that not everything's perfect, but we can create balance, and we nothing needs to be perfect. And I think that kind of mentality will rub off children, and as they grow up, they'll start to adopt that same mentality, whereas they'll go, okay, there's more to life than just exercising. There's more to life than getting a big house and a nice fancy car. Is about contributing, so about making a difference. So again, it's like leaders, moms leaders, it's the same, it's pretty much the same thing, because parents are leaders. Obviously they're leading their children towards the future, and how they do that in terms of the mentality, the actions they take, the behaviors they show, all these sorts of things will rub off, and they will get absorbed by children, and they'll grow up basically following suit. And I've seen it a lot in my case with my parents. Like the profession I'm now in, what I do, no one in my family does. So I grew up in a very different environment, and the only reason I took a different turn is because I didn't want to go down a similar route to my family went down, and that kind of scared me a bit. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take a different route. But I went obsessively the other way. I went too far, because I didn't have that role model. I didn't have that someone there showing me what to do. And I think that's where parents come in. They're so important in a child's development, because they show them what to do. They can show them the right way. The right way is individual for each person. There's no generic right way, and that comes down to, again, each family, each mum, each child, and how they want to show up for their children, and how they want their children to show up in the world.
Yeah, and I think everything you said just now could also be applied to a leader in, for example, the corporate world, in that the way that they're showing up is also then trickling down to those who are on their teams, is having a similar ripple effect as they're leading in the workplace.
No, 100%. The leader of a company, like that person at the top, they are like the parents of that company. Everyone below them, that's their children. So what they do at the top is going to have a big effect as it trickles down into all the different departments. So 100%.
Yeah. Speaking about that, do you have any stories of leaders that you've worked with, any of your clients or parents that you've worked with, that have made a change for focusing on their mental, emotional, and physical health, and then seeing the impact in those they lead? Anything pop into mind as you're thinking about the clients that you work with?
Yeah, so we kind of both work with them, again, in parallel, both coaching. So the husband came to Jonathan because he purely had physical goals. Right. The wife came to Jonathan because she had some issues with breathing and asthma and things like that. But actually, when we dug a bit deeper to find out what was going on the surface, their relationship was struggling. They were sitting all the time in front of kids. They were both trying to, achieve more and more in their position. The guy here was like really high up in terms of like what he was doing for his job as well, and he was struggling with certain team members. The lady, his wife, she was training to be a pilot, and she was struggling with the training itself because she was struggling, one, with anxiety and her breathing, but also because of the added pressure of trying to raise two kids. So that you can just kind of picture the kind of household that they was experiencing, as well as those work situations. And when they started to become more aware of things like how their sleep affects their mood, and how the mood affects how they communicate, and how it affects how they think, they immediately started to see like all of these little wins over time, and they were communicating better. They was able to get in the kind of fitness shape that they wanted to. They was able to be more conscious as parents. They suddenly realized, I think a light bulb moment went off there. They knew they were role models before, but they wasn't taking that on board on every level, right? So they would do the classic things that most parents do, like maybe being mindful of the language they use, not swearing in front of their kids, and not encouraging drugs and this and that, like the standard things, right, that most people are fortunate to experience with parents. But what they didn't realize was how their arguing was affecting their kids, how their just how their dull mood when they come home from work was affecting their kids. And honestly, it was the same kind of situation in their work setting well. So they wasn't realizing that was the case. They had big light bulb moments there. And because they was kind of in it together as well, that really helped them to bounce off each other and really, again, create a synergy between their energies, which meant that they had an emotional balance. So if one person was feeling in emotional turmoil for whatever reason, they're able to deal with that, right? Because we're supposed to feel the whole spectrum of emotion. It's not about us just getting rid of stress and like, everything sunshine and rainbows, right? It's supposed to be feeling that, but it's then they learn how to hold that space for each other, and also then in the workplace they would hold space for those conflicts and to look at it from a place of understanding rather than a place of taking it personally and getting in the problem, being able to be outside of the problem and then create a different direction for it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful example. And I think we so often work on treating the symptoms instead of treating the cause, right? And it's, they might have saw that they were arguing and wanted to, just work on not arguing. But I think what you highlighted there is thinking about, okay, what's leading to that? How is the sleep that we're getting affecting our mood and how we're communicating with each other? And it sounds like there are a lot of, like you said, light bulb moments that then made those changes that they wanted to make in their lives probably more permanent and more impactful, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with them a few years ago now.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we were still in the Middle East then. So yeah, it was 3 years ago, and they're thriving now. Like they're really, really doing well, and it's so cool for us to see as well. It's like it's beautiful. But that's the point. It's about lasting change, and when we go deep on the things that count, right, and we start to take care of the core things that we need as human beings, the change is lasting, and that's and something that just spurs us on even more is to help people create that lasting change.
That's wonderful. Speaking of that, people often say that being a leader and for that matter, being a mom can be very stressful. I know you have a very deep knowledge of stress and how we can handle it, but I'd love to hear from you. What are some practices that you recommend for leaders to help let go of unhealthy stress? And maybe talk to us a little bit too about what you mean by unhealthy stress versus healthy stress.
Okay, no problem. So before we get to some of the tips, we'll clarify healthy and unhealthy stress. So basically, stress is a normal response that us as human beings we experience. It's completely normal. We experience it daily, weekly, monthly. When something comes up that kind of just sends our nervous system on a bit of a high. And that could be anything from, again, step out into the road and potentially get hit by a car, or we could go into the office and realize we've completely forgotten to do something, and that sends our cortisol through the roof. So that response is normal, and we can never control the initial response that happens. But what we can do is we can decide going forward as how to react to that response. And unhealthy stress is where it's kind of like prolonged stress and it's unresourceful stress. So like I said about going into the office, for example, and you've forgotten to do something, or you've got a meeting coming up, or you know there's a colleague in that you don't particularly get on with, and then you're worrying about it. You're thinking, okay, what am I going to say? What they're going to say? Are we going to fight today? That type of stress that raises cortisol and activates that stress response. That's very unresourceful and not helpful at all. That's unhealthy because there's no reason to have it. There's no life or death situation, and that's what a stress response is built to help us become more resilient and adapt and grow or save our life. And a work situation like that doesn't help. So, and all the same thing is when we're scrolling through social media and we're seeing things that trigger us. We're seeing things we don't agree with, that don't fit into our belief systems, where maybe put something up, they put a post up, or maybe the government's posted something, and we start to get angry about that unhealthy stress because it's not serving anyone, it's not resourceful, and we tend to hold on to that emotion that's attached. And we don't deal with it, and then it gets stored within our physical body. And the next time we see something, the same thing, we get triggered again, and we store more emotion, and it just compounds, as we call stress compounding, and that becomes chronic stress. And then that presents itself and overflows in unhealthy ways, where like emotional outbursts, snapping at a loved one, snapping at a coworker, or experiencing pain, digestive issues, stuff like that. So when it becomes chronic and ongoing, it becomes extremely unresourceful and unhealthy. So healthy stress is short-lived. It literally lasts for about 60 to 90 seconds. When we realize we're not in danger anymore, or we realize that the situation is okay, we calm ourselves down and we get back to a more relaxed state. And our body then deals with that cortisol that's been coursing through the body and gets rid of it. And that's healthy stress. And that's when we maybe move to a different country, start a new job, get into a new relationship, join a sports team, and try to get better at a sport. Stress helps us to grow and become better. So that's kind of, hopefully that makes sense in terms of how healthy and unhealthy stress. In terms of tips, and I think there's some tips we can definitely share. And I think for me, the one thing that helps instantly, and I think everyone can definitely benefit from, is breathing, is slowing things down. When we're stressed and our nervous system is literally in that fight or flight mode, we can't think resourcefully. We don't think resourcefully. We don't think logically. We think emotionally. And most of the time, our thoughts and how we react don't really make sense. And so it's important, before we make a decision or before we do anything, is to step back from it and slow everything down. Slow our thinking down, slow our body down, get that cortisol, get our nervous system back down to a baseline. And breath work or breathing is such a fast and key way to do that. Like, that was my big game changer for me with my chronic pain. Is breathing is a control system for your body. It's like we talked about leaders of the company. Like, breath is CEO of your body, the CEO of the company. It controls every system in your body. You can increase stress, you can decrease stress, you can feel better, you can feel worse, all through how you breathe. So I think a good is become more mindful of your breathing. The thing to do if you feel a little bit agitated is one I like to do, a very, very easy one, is breathing in for 5 seconds, breathing out for 5 seconds. This just helps us slow everything down. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. So I call like a grounding breath. This helps us bring us back to our baseline and helps us to start to think a little bit more resourcefully.
And it's so accessible too. Like you said, everybody can do it. It doesn't cost any money. And I hadn't heard that statement before, that breathing's like the CEO of your body, but that makes a lot of sense. And it really shows the importance and the power of that action and of controlling it and being mindful of it, like you said.
It helps to regulate the body, because a lot of people like try that, like, will positive think today. When you go out in the morning, you'll just look in the mirror, you'll tell yourself things are going to be amazing and you're going to be the best boss or the best mom, and then something happens and trip up that day, because right. But the thing is, like, when we try and almost think our way out of something that we're feeling physically, it becomes a real challenge, because there's more than one thing going on, and we can't control everything through our thoughts. They are important and definitely inform some of our emotional responses to things, absolutely. But the reality is, our breath is the one thing that we all have, and we can all start to take control of and have an awareness of. Just simple things like being aware if you're breathing through your nose or your mouth most often throughout the day. A lot of people that tend to be chronically stressed breathe a lot through their mouth. Right? They don't realize that actually nasal breathing actually helps us to again, like John said, come back to our baseline. It helps our nervous system come into that calm state that we actually need. So if we've got leaders who are talking all the time and talking a lot, they're breathing a lot through their mouth. And if they're breathing and talking a lot and they're highly stressed, that's actually the worst for them. So like John said, what would be amazing for that person to do is to step back from that situation, calm the self, step away from the conversation, go back into it, you'll immediately be a lot more resourceful. And the same with parents too, right? You see, kids are unpredictable, right? So you don't know at what point you're always going to get triggered a little bit. So it's so important to also be proactive with breathing as well, because it's not always realistic, as we know, that you're not going to leave your toddler in the next room whilst you go and just take a breath. You can do that, of course, but obviously depending on the age and such,
right.
that's appropriate. But what's important here is that we start to be proactive also about our breath. So just taking some time in the morning before you reach the day, before you enter the working world, or before you put your mom hat on, it's to actually just be present with yourself for a moment. Be present, make sure you're already coming into your day from a calm place. Really check with yourself, what is my intention for the day? How am I going to be thinking about my day? Am I going to go through and slow things down because life happens so fast? Am I going to do my best to just slow it down a bit and enjoy those moments?
Yeah. And I love that tip. Like I said, from everything you've said, I just keep thinking about how, more and more powerful that simple act can be in your life. And I think, like you said, we do all try to kind of think our way out of things, or, pump ourselves up through thoughts. And I think the recognition of the physical aspect of the breathing, and that it's just so powerful. And that also sets the tone for just acknowledging that we are whole people, and we're not just our thoughts. So I love that tip. Thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome. I think as well, just to add there, emotionally as well, it's so important to have that awareness of how we feel, because something very common that we see often with our clients, but also just from people that we speak to, is that they tend to resist their emotions. One, they don't know how they're feeling, right? So they can't really describe it. Sometimes they can't describe it with people, or they can't even describe the sensation. That's usually a sign that we're starting to get a bit dissociated with how we feel. So it's very important for us to recognize and start to understand, okay, what is going on within me? But also for us to then be able to not resist the emotion. We desperately don't want to feel stressed. We don't want to feel guilty about something. That mum guilt that can show up, and anger, there's frustrations, maybe things that are happening in the office and things like that. And sometimes we resist feeling those things so much that, as you know, they persist, right? So take a moment and honor the emotion that we feel, because only can it transform into something of service.
So true. Yeah. So we've talked about in past episodes that kind of welcoming that emotion and acknowledging it, and then thinking about the next steps, or working toward the next steps after that as well. And speaking of only then can we be of service, I know that you have an exciting virtual event coming up called Become a Force for Good. I'd love to hear about what inspired that event, and then if you want to get into some of the details too about who's going to be there, and what kind of impact you hope it will have on those that participate.
Yeah, definitely. What inspired the event is kind of like what we spoke about earlier, is just that opportunity to make a difference, is to do something meaningful. And that's what, again, like we find a lot of people we speak to, they want to do something meaningful. Like for us, this event is like huge for us, because it really brings together some amazing speakers, and anyone who attends the event, they're going to get some such valuable information and some kind of little tips and some seeds that might be planted that they can take away and start to think differently about like their own life, but also at the same time to make a difference just by attending. So even just attending the events, they make a difference, because all the proceeds we make from the event go straight to a range of good causes. That's with a company we're partnered with, B1G1, Business for Good. So literally just by showing up and watching, they're making a difference already in the lives of people around the world, just by showing up. And then hopefully by showing up, they can help make a difference in their life as well, and the people around them, by taking on that information and, hope to have that ripple effect as well, and along the way. And it might just, spark something in them to try something different.
The things they're really doing, really not even recognizing that they're doing. So that's one of the reasons why we've got so many like cool speakers coming along. These are everyday change makers who have already figured out how to move past their personal struggles and how to then have that ripple effect in their own way. And they're going to be talking about things like how to stop personal suffering and start changing the world, how everyone can be a change maker, no matter how big or small. Also, we've got somebody speaking about how to have the impact that you wish could. So many people share that they want to have an impact, but they just don't know where to start. They don't know how. And often there's some confidence issues coming through, or that life's too busy and they can't. So it's really about helping people how they can make a difference by doing the things they love, by helping themselves so they can help others, and how they can actually start to make a difference just as they are.
I love that. I'm so excited to attend myself, but I think the fact that, like you said, Jonathan, just showing up, you're making a difference just by attending. But I think there's going to be so much more impact as well from what people get out of it.
And that is exactly our intention for this event. And all of the speakers attending, all just doing this because they also want to be part of this mission, and they're already part of it by what they do every day. It becomes part of that mission as well in their own right, and they get to own that, and they get to just show up and enjoy the event, but then they get to maybe plant those seeds elsewhere in their lives as well.
Yeah, and I think I just keep coming back to what you said about the different entry points as well. I think it's so important to take advantage of opportunities like this to learn from speakers. Even if you feel like you need to do a lot more work on yourself before you start serving others, I would almost push back a little bit about that. I think, like you said, energy is important, and it's definitely important to be in a good place yourself. But I think even taking a step forward to hearing about how you can start a small change or have a small impact, that could be part of your personal journey and you improving your wellness as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
So, what are you hoping that people will leave this event with? What are you hoping some of the impact will be?
Well, one of the things I think is definitely want people to kind of leave the event leaving that, okay, anything is possible. Literally, like, doesn't matter what they do, no matter how small, how big, anything is possible. Anything in life is possible, and they have everything they need to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important thing, is people looking everywhere and anywhere for the answer, but they have it within themselves. Yes, people need a bit of guidance, and that's why obviously what myself and Charlotte do, it's what you do, it's what a lot of people that we do, and that's what we do. We guide people in the direction that they need to help them unlock what they already know. And when they start to unlock and become aware, that's when the change happens, and that's when the magic happens, and they start to ask the right questions, and they start to find the answers themselves, and they start to do amazing things. So that's definitely one of the things we want people to walk away with, is like, we know if we go to these events, it's hard to remember everything that happens or everything that people said. But the main thing, as long as something sparks that curiosity for them to start going out there and asking questions and maybe finding out a bit more about who they are, to be able to step out and become their true self.
And alongside that, like Jonathan mentioned earlier, this is all the proceeds going to amazing causes, some of which is giving children education, saving kids from sex trafficking. It's about helping orphan animals. The proceeds are going to be going to help plant more trees and look after our beaches and our oceans and provide water to families, and so many other incredible causes. So like you already said, there is like just the attendance will also be serving such an incredible purpose. So I think there's just so many angles that it just helps. And yeah, we just want as many people to be part of this as possible, because we truly believe that there's not enough people talking about this, and we want more voices in a way as well. And that can be a voice within a family, that can be a voice of one person telling their team at work, it could be one voice of somebody telling their brother or their sister. Like it doesn't matter how far that voice reaches, just that now it's part of a conversation, and that conversation essentially also leads into that ripple effect.
That is so true. So much of what you said is just inspiring me now, so I can only imagine what the event will do. But I think just recognizing the fact that even just if it inspires you to ask a question that then starts a domino effect of changes in your life or changes in those around you. If you get nothing else out of it than that, that would be wonderful. But you are going to get more out of it than that, because even just by attending, you're helping all those causes, like you mentioned, Charlotte. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to have an impact and also plant the seeds of future impact that you can have in your lives. So I'm excited for it. I really encourage everyone in the audience to go and sign up for it. And we'll talk more about how we can do that in just a minute. But thank you to both of you for putting it on. I think it's wonderfully inspired, and I'm excited to see the impact that it's going to have.
Inspired by the work that you do as well, and it's people like you as well, and for sure your listeners that drive us to do things like this as well. So it's everybody co-creating this together, so we're just as excited as you, for sure.
I love the co-creating idea. I think we so often struggle with a lot of the challenges that are going on in the world, but there are so many co-creators of goodness out there, I guess you would say. And I love that idea. I can't let you go without asking you a question that we ask all of our guests in this season of Moms That Lead. So I would love to hear from both of you about what's the one leadership lesson that you feel most passionate about passing on, either to your clients, colleagues, or friends. And just so you know, at Moms That Lead, we consider leadership not just in the formal sense of a position, but of inspiring others to do more, to be who they truly are and have the impact that they're meant to have on the world. So I'd love to hear from you. What, if you could only pass on one leadership lesson, what would that be?
Definitely. I think with your term of leadership, it's not about titles, it's about how you show up. And I think that is, my biggest message really, to take away from that is about how you show up. If you want to make a difference, you want to make a change, you've got to be that person. You've got to show up as that person. You've got it's that thing of we're human beings. Most of us are so busy doing be. So if you want to make a change and you want to show up for the people around you, for the people at work, for your family, you've got to be that person who you want to be. I mean, you've got to show up as that person. You've got to lead from the front, as I say. You've got to lead by example. And I know it's a cliche, lead by example, it's everywhere, but it's so true. It's like people follow people, and you get inspired by the people that are around you, or you kind of shy away and you move away from people depending on how they act. So you've just got to show up your best self as you want to show up in the world.
So true. Definitely agree. Charlotte, what about you?
I think the most important lesson in leadership is to know that we already are leaders of life, right? It doesn't matter who you're leading or what that looks like for you, but just knowing that you already have that resource anchored inside of you. And I think sometimes it's so easy to forget that when there's course after course and book after book, how can you do this better? How can you do that better? I think sometimes we can forget that we already own that. It's just time for us to see it. And I think that takes courage. But I do think that it's possible for everybody to be able to look in the mirror and say, hey, I am a leader. This is how I lead. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. And it's already within me. And you can't learn that from a book or from a course, even from an event. Yes, you can be inspired and you can learn so many things, but the true deep lesson is within us all.
That's beautiful. I very much agree. And I think that's something that we all need to hear, but particularly I've spoken with a lot of women who think, well, I'm not sure if I consider myself a leader, but like you said, it's you already are. It's already within you. And it is about, like you said, Jonathan, recognizing what you already have inside you and showing up as that person, because we're all unique, and that's the beauty of our world. And it's also a call, a responsibility, in that we're all, the world's a big puzzle and we're all a piece in that, and we're a needed piece. So thank you for calling that out in the leadership lessons you presented. So speaking back to the event and just your work, I just want to close out a little bit more, because I'm sure hearing both of you speak, a lot of members of our audience would love to learn more about the work that you do and to sign up for that event. So what is the best way to learn more about you, to follow you, and to sign up for the event?
The best place where they'll find everything is on Instagram at Wellness Theory. There, what you'll be able to, if you just go to the link, you'll be able to see where and how you can sign up and find out more information about the event itself. You can also access a free resource that we have available, which is actually a wellness scorecard where you can address all those areas that we just touched upon with regards to practices, and you can see what areas you're really doing well in and maybe which areas of your wellness maybe need a bit more attention, and then you'll get a personalized report and practical tactical videos as well, that can help you on your journey as well. So that's probably the best place to find us.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And we'll make sure that that's all linked in the show notes as well, so that people can easily find you and keep up with you and sign up for the event. One final question, just I know we have some people that are kind of in a time zone on the different side of the globe. Will it be possible for them to attend the event at a different time?
Yes, they will be able to get their hands on a recording after. It will also be at a charge, and that will also be going towards those causes we mentioned as well. There will be an opportunity to catch the pre-recording, but they would need to just reach out to us and let us know. It's not something we're really going to be advertising too publicly on our social media pages.
Okay, excellent. Just in case people are concerned about, doing a live event in the middle of the night. I know that there's going to be a lot of interest in attending, but that might be a little bit challenging, especially for people who are leading families and working jobs as well.
We'll make sure it's available for your listeners, especially.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for being on Moms That Lead today. I'm excited about everything that we talked about and would love to catch up with you and maybe dig deeper on some of these topics again in the future.
Absolutely, that would be amazing. And like we said at the very beginning, thank you for the work that you do too, because it's so great to see the projects that you do and the way you serve your community. I think it's incredible.
Well, thank you. Are you even more inspired to become a force for good after that conversation? I know I am. So I promised a chance to win an entry into their event, Become a Force for Good. Here's how you can do it. Instead of me giving you the 5 takeaways from today's episode, like I usually do, I want to hear what was most meaningful for you. The first 2 people to DM me on Instagram at We Are Moms That Lead something that they learned from today's episode will get a ticket for free entry into their event. If you're not on Instagram, you can email me your takeaway at Teri, that's Teri, at momsthatlead.com. But don't worry, even if you don't win, you can sign up for the event at the link in our bio. As Charlotte said, we need more voices for good. Let's join together, get inspired at this event, and move forward with changing our families, communities, and world. And as always, until next time, lead with love.